Airbnb just made one of its biggest changes in years that affect hosts, and they did it very quietly. This is about your payment terms, how guests can do chargebacks now, and you will be on the hook as a host. Guests can now cancel their buy now, pay later method, and a whole bunch of policy changes that I wasn't expecting, and I'm sure you weren't. We have an expert in the field of direct bookings on today that is going to help you understand these new Airbnb changes, what hosts can do to protect themselves, and ultimately, what is a game plan going forward so that you are not as affected by any of these changes that happen when you don't even see them coming. Let's get into today's episode. Hey everyone, Garrett Brown from Bigger Stays back again. I work at Bigger Pockets as the resident STR expert, and today we have another expert in the field who is, y'all are probably familiar with at this point because he's been on the channel quite a few times, always talking different direct bookings, Airbnb things, and everything under the sun. Mark Simpson, welcome back to the channel.
Yeah, thank you. 3 times. I was checking 3 times, and every single time has been about when Airbnb changes policies. So why break a trend?
Yeah, they're giving us good content to talk about at least too. So we have that set up. We'll just get right into it. I'm sure if you saw the thumbnail, saw the title, and you've even slightly paid attention to the area, you know that Airbnb made another massive change this week to their payment terms, which it kind of flew under the radar to some people, especially if you didn't really want to dig into what exactly those new terms meant. But I'm going to let Mark give his input and what he saw from the update in terms now. And then we're just going to kind of go into it and talk about how this could affect hosts, how this may affect guests, and what hosts should be doing to, counteract this new change. So Mark, what did you see with the new payment terms that just came out recently?
Yeah, you're right. It was very quiet. I first heard of it by just having a little look on LinkedIn. And I think it was probably late Friday, early Saturday, just chilling out, just having a little coffee, had a little look on LinkedIn and I saw it and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And didn't really do much more about it. And then obviously I started to see it a little bit more. So again, dug into it, copied and pasted it all into ChatGPT and asked it to break it down. And so you're basically, just in summary, the 3 main things that everybody's sort of talking about is they are changing it. Any new host, so if you're watching this Bigger Pockets and you go and create an account today, you're already opted in. You don't get a chance to delay, but all the existing hosts have got until September until this is changing. And you haven't got a chance to opt out. This is literally it. And the 3 main things is reserve now, pay later. So this is, if anybody's ever done anything on Klarna or if it's like PayPal, do it where you buy now, pay later. This is Airbnb obviously moving to this. Well, that's the first thing we'll definitely talk about. Other thing is chargebacks. So this is the one to me, which is just like outrageous. So let's just say I come and stay with you, Garrett. Let's say I check out on Monday. And let's just say in a month or 2 months time, I go to my credit card and say that was a fraudulent purchase. I didn't stay there. If for whatever reason, my bank favors with me, then Airbnb will just keep their fee and take all the money off you, even though I've come and stayed with you, which, if you've ever dealt with chargebacks before, I have. Banks are so loyal to their customers over the provider, and it is insane. Like American Express are the worst at this. That's the second one. And another one is like payout terms. Now, the payout terms one, I got caught out of it a couple of weeks ago. I was sort of looking at it thinking it was a lot worse than what it is. But basically, this is probably the least bad of the 3, but Airbnb have changed it where they can delay or change payouts anytime. And again, what that basically means is just for whatever reason, if they have to hang on to the payment, say that your bank changes or if they think something's fraudulent, they'll hang on to it, but they will give it to you. But again, if you can look at it from a multiple points of views, if you are running a business, you've got people to pay, you've got mortgages to pay, cleaners to pay, maintenance people to pay. If Airbnb hold on to that for whatever reason, and technically they can do it for any reason, it could really screw you over. So those are the 3 main things in the payment one. And that's before we even get stuck into like the new strict cancellation policies and all the other things that are going on. So those are the 3 main ones.
I had the similar thing I did. I took the article, I put it into ChatGPT, and I was like, all right, like break this down for me into layman's plain English here so I can understand it. And the 2 things that stood out to me, I think that people were getting a little nervous about the payout terms, but just from what I'm seeing, and I guess you kind of reiterated, I don't think that's going to change a ton. I think they're still going to be okay in that front. We'll see what it plays out because they're obviously changing things daily, it kind of seems. But the thing that concerned me as a host was, the no repercussions on chargeback and kind of these things when Airbnb is technically the merchant of record there. And now as a host, I'm personally nervous that okay, if I do get a chargeback and Airbnb is just, they seem like they're just going to kind of wash their hands and go, oh, okay, well, it's not our problem at this point. But how am I supposed to even get the information to even make a case to a credit card company, or even, like, and they're so against sending out links now and doing all this extra verification things that, as a direct booker, like that I do a ton of direct bookings, these things somewhat safeguard me. I've only had one chargeback in my direct booking life, and a lot of red flags popped up, and I've realized them now. But this payment processor I use, which is Stripe, they have things like risk evaluation, and they have all these different things now. You can even pay a little more to get their higher level like intel into that. And I have copies of IDs, I have rental agreements, I have all these things on my direct booking site. But Airbnb doesn't really allow you to send out these links and stuff like that. So what are you seeing for a host to like deal with this? Like, how is this going to affect everything for hosts?
This one thing in the help article, and again, for everybody watching and they're going, I want to go check this out. It's go to the help article, type in 3944. It's all there. Again, do what me and Garrett did, put it into chat and get it to like.
We'll link it in the description as well for everybody.
Link it in as well. Yeah, because this is the thing. I went into Facebook groups and I started talking about it, and people saying, give me the links. And I was giving them the link, but I'm based in the UK. So it's linking up the UK one, and they were all coming back to me saying, I'm not in the UK. So I just learned to say 3944. You're good, go there. But this one is the funny one. And I feel like for everybody, if ever there's going to be an Airbnb push to get people to talk about and do direct bookings, I think it's not a case of when you're going to do it. It's a case of like, now you've got to do it, because, and this is the one that's going to push people over the edge, because you have to now. There's a really good company called Happy Guest Official. It's a total free setup, and they have rental agreements built into it. They obviously do the digital guidebooks as part of it. They can do upsells part of it, and it's a totally free setup. So you've got a Happy Guest. And I feel like so many more people now are going to get pushed towards these third parties, because you're right, Airbnb do not build that in. And who knows, it may come down the line. But right now, and between now and September, you're going to have to start to protect yourself, because what you don't want to happen is that, again, somebody comes and stays with you, say they rack up a pretty decent bill, like say $7,000, $8,000, which is very easy, can be done. And let's just say they turn around, and guests are getting clever. You know, if you're thinking, oh, my guest won't do it, guests are getting clever. I've seen a guest go on ChatGPT, use the image generator on ChatGPT, took a picture of the sheets and said, and got it to looked into stained sheets, sent that into Airbnb, and that got refunded. Just because guests are getting smart now. And obviously Airbnb sided with the guest instantly, not with the host. So you've got to protect yourselves, right? And this is the time to do it. And I feel like if there's ever a point in time that Airbnb is going to push a host to do direct bookings, this is the time. So yeah, go check out things like Happy Guest. Obviously you've got things like Proper, and there are cool third parties that obviously that are around.
And the guests have gotten very savvy. It's like kind of mind blowing how advanced they actually have become with this, almost to be, I don't want to call them professional scammers or anything like that, because that's not the term I want to use. I'm kind of drawing a blank on what I would use. But for an example, I interviewed a guy named Josh not long ago on the platform. He had a guest send in a cockroach picture into Airbnb, and then a couple weeks later, he had a different guest use that same cockroach picture, which obviously they just Googled something off, Google, and turned it into Airbnb. The first one, he got refunded. He couldn't do anything about. The second one, they at least had some evidence of like, hey, this is a reverse, using reverse image search, all these things, and Airbnb sided with him. But this was before even these payment terms come out. And, the gift and curse about us talking about this is that guests may see this now and go, oh, we can do chargebacks, and it's going to be so much easier to just get out of them. And I can't understand like Airbnb's stance on it, because it almost seems like you're setting up hosts to fail here. Like, we are taking all the risk, and you pretty much at this point have decided that, well, if you get a chargeback, it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, and they still keep their service fee or something along those lines.
Yeah, they still keep the service fee. They're not giving that up. I said on the last podcast, like, Airbnb have drawn their line in the sand. And this is the line in the sand, and they're literally digging it now. And they're digging a moat around this. They are firmly going down the route of guests and shareholders. And, it's a shame. It's not the company that we all know and love that started in San Francisco, but was very host focused. And, what got Airbnb to here is unfortunately not what's going to get them to the next place, right? And obviously, all of this move isn't for nothing. It's not just them just going on a whim. You look at the growth in the USA, their growth is at 5%, and that gets shareholders panicking. Brian Chesky, and if you've listened to any of like the higher ups since the summer release talking, they're going after hotels. Brian Chesky said himself, for every 9 hotel nights that are booked, there's 1 night booked on Airbnb. So there's a 9% growth from hotels to Airbnb. They're going after that crowd. There's the reason why they brought out services. The head of marketing said on the CMO Unleashed podcast that Airbnb obviously got a lot of attention, but the reason why people still prefer hotels is because of the amenities and the services. They specifically said services. So that's why they brought in services. You're looking in Europe, over my neck of the woods over here, and PR push is being done where Airbnb are blaming hotels for over-tourism, where Airbnb was getting blamed for over-tourism in big cities like Barcelona and Venice. So they're definitely making a play for this. So everything that they're bringing in is to align themselves more with Booking.com, which is a huge, huge OTA. I know in America, and I know with short-term rentals, Booking.com is like looked at and laughed at, but it is massive worldwide, and Expedia Group as well. And everything that they are doing is to pivot themselves more into being the big OTA on this one. And unfortunately, what it means is the people who are going to suffer isn't the guests, isn't the shareholders, it's going to be the hosts.
I think that plays in line to and the other big update that kind of quietly rolled out as well. I opened up my app and saw this, that the strict cancellation policy is going away, and you're automatically getting opt-in to a firm cancellation. I guess it's a new firm cancellation policy is what they're calling it. You can technically opt out as a host that had strict before, but any new listings or anything like that, you can't use your strict cancellation policy anymore, which the firm policy is you have up to 30 days before your stay now that a guest can cancel, and they'll get a full refund no matter what. So they're obviously trying to compete with hotels there. And you know, if you get into, I think it's 7 days prior, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 days prior, you can get 50% of your stay back under firm, which before in strict, which all of my properties are strict, you would get 50% pretty much no matter what. And you would never get a full refund unless it was in 48 hours, I believe so, no matter when you booked. And now I'm worried as somebody that has high level operations. My cleaners book out calendars way in advance. They decline other bookings from other people because they'll take certain bookings. And now I'm worried that as a host, that guests are going to book out. My lead time is a lot higher probably than others because of our marketing abilities and just what we've been able to accomplish even on the Airbnb platform. But I'm worried that guests are going to book out my July 4th weekends have been booked out for probably 3 months. If they would have booked them out in advance with this new cancellation policy, they could have canceled up to 30 days in front of that. And then I would have been scrambling to find new guests, which I probably could have filled, but you never know what the dates are going to look like. And then they get a full refund. So what are your thoughts with that new change? And on top of everything else going on, like what could hosts do to pivot with their Airbnb listing? And then what could they do to push the direct bookings away from that maybe?
Yeah, 100%. So first and foremost, I feel that everybody who is tuning in now needs to just basically pause this, go to the app and basically opt out. If you've got a strict policy, because people have got different policies, different markets, you got different things that you have to obviously combat with. But if you are firm on the strict, no pun intended, if you're going to stick strict, you got to opt out. You've got until October the 1st. So just go and do it now. Forget about it, because that is big, because it will affect you, especially if you and your whole business is set up around that. How do you start to proactively fight against it? Well, it's very, very obvious. You've got to start building in your direct booking business into your operations. So as soon as possible, start to build an email list. You get your CRM, start to get emails. We've spoken about this before and how to go about on doing it. So go and check out the other podcasts on that. And then what we always did, so this is the thing that we always used to do at our family business every single year. We did it in January and it worked a treat. We looked at the year in advance and we always knew the big popular dates in our calendar. Obviously we don't do July the 4th in the UK, but we've got like bank holidays, national holidays, we've got Christmas, we've got things that I know in our calendar that could sell out 3 or 4 times over. We've got local events that happen. There was like big sporting events, local performers, big performers would come to our local town. So I looked at our calendar, and all that I literally did on my PMS that we we would close out the dates to the online travel agents. So we'd basically say on these dates, nobody can book via an OTA. You can only book direct. And we had a email list of about, I would say 2,000 people. Wasn't too big, wasn't too small, just 2,000. And what we would do is we would email everybody and say, these are the dates that we know are going to be very popular this year. We are only offering these via direct. So phone call, email, website. It's first come, first served. And for context, we had a 15-bedroom micro hotel in the middle of the North Yorkshire moor. So it was like a farm stay. So you come, you experience, you've got sheep and goats and cows and all that cool stuff. And then we had holiday cottages as well. We emailed that out. And within, I would say, a couple of weeks of doing proactive marketing around this, we would fill out those days direct, paid in advance, which was good. So we never had to rely on Airbnb for them. And again, we were in charge of everything. Like if a guest wanted to cancel or wanted to postpone or whatever, we didn't have like Big Brother watching over us. And this is the problem whenever a booking comes from a third party platform, you always feel like Big Brother's watching you. You are so nervous with how you communicate with guests because you don't want to upset them. There's an amazing story coming out of France last week on this, where a tourist posted on Twitter that he had stayed in this property in France for a month. It was a €7,000, so about $8,000 stay. And there was problems with the stay. The guests complained about Wi-Fi, heating, etc. But the host sorted them straight away. The guest at not one point asked for a refund. But after he checked out, Airbnb refunded him in full and took that off the host. And that's just from the Airbnb AI reading the messages. So that not at one point did the guest say, I want my money back. He just said, hey, there's a few problems, like there are in every state. There's a few problems. Host sorted them. But now the host has lost €7,000, so $8,000 booking, and obviously is down. And the guest had the full stay. And you have that looking over your shoulder from every booking that comes in from an OTA. And this is the beauty of direct. And it's just, there's a lot less stress. And that's what we did to combat that. And I feel like that is what hosts need to start doing, building the list, proactive marketing, broadcast messaging, whether it's through email, SMS, WhatsApp, social media. That's how you need to combat that.
I love that. I've never heard of that, somebody doing that where they took the most popular dates off the OTAs. And then I utilize my email list a lot. It's probably like 5,000 people now. It's growing consistently, but you also like kind of give them almost a little bit of VIP treatment of like, hey, we're giving you this special opportunity to book these dates at a lower price compared to Airbnb because you don't have the service fees and all that, which they don't even earn at this point, in my opinion. And then you're able to give them like that guest experience to where they just feel so valued because they feel like you're reaching out to them personally. I have a good story this last week. This is the first time I've told this story, but it's a great example of why controlling the guest experience from start to finish is so critical with direct bookings. Anytime I have an Airbnb guest and something comes up, I'm so nervous that they're going to go to Airbnb and go, like XYZ happened, like, the cockroach story, and like they get the refund. This last week, I had a 3-day booking on one of my properties. It was a direct booking. The gentleman showed up, and I messaged him that morning, told him that my typical landscaper, his mower was down. He wasn't going to be able to come to the next day. The grass was mowed like a week and a half ago, mind you. It wasn't bad. And I messaged him, told him that, and he said, okay, no problem. He got there, and you never know what's going on in somebody's life. Like I've had people show up to properties and they may get into a fight with their partner or something, and then they try to look for a reason to like blame me for something or get a refund. But this guest showed up. He sends me a message and he says, hey, like, the grass is just a little too high. Like my wife's not comfortable. She's having a panic attack, and like there's all these things that were just kind of mind blowing. And me and my team, we jumped in, we gave him great hospitality, and we go, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like my landscaper will be there tomorrow to fix that. Is there anything we can do to help your stay? And they were like, like we're over. We just want to leave. Like, can you just give us a full refund? Like we want a full refund and all this. And so I kind of sat there for a little bit, but I wrote an answer out, and then I was like, wait, I need to make sure this is, not coming from a place of emotion. So I typed it into ChatGPT, buttoned it up a little bit, and I sent it back, and it was super professional. But also at the same time, he also made a weird claim. This was a new one for me. I have a few properties on one piece of land. This is on a Tuesday, and we had closed down a couple for some construction, a few other things. He goes, there's nobody else in any other houses, like it was a scam or something. And I'm like, and so I go, well, that claim is unsubstantiated. Like, people typically are happy actually when there's not people around, like, and they have the privacy. And I kind of just talked him off the ledge, basically. At the end of it, he ends up going, yeah, like, we actually just had some family things going on. We had this going on, and like, we just been real stressed, and like, they took off their anger to us, which is part of the hospitality business, which, it is what it is. But I was able to save that reservation. It was a $1,400 stay for a few days. I ended up out of goodwill. I refunded him his cleaning fee. I think I sent him like a $200 back just to like try to ease the pain. Because again, the grass was not cut. That was something, and I tried to avoid it, and it was what it was. But if that same type of stay had happened on Airbnb, without a doubt, they would have refunded the whole stay. He would have complained about everything, and I wouldn't have even been able to just have that guest communication the whole way through. Like, I had his personal number, I had his email, my team could communicate with him. And so we turned a $1,400 refund that would have been on Airbnb into probably $200 back, which we didn't even have to use get our cleaners out there anyways, because he didn't even touch the unit really in the end. That would have been a nightmare horror story for anybody on Airbnb. I never was worried, because the whole time I'm even telling my girlfriend, like, she was kind of real time with me. I was like, I'm not even worried. Like, this is a direct booking. Like, we're going to handle it because that's what we do, and we're hospitable hosts. But I'm not worried about them doing some major chargeback or all these other things, because I have all these other things set in line with my direct booking process. So I just like to tell, that's the first time I've been able to tell that story, because I want to emphasize, like, I personally think it's so much less stressful to have direct booking guests. I very rarely get stressed with direct booking guests for a myriad of reasons. But with Airbnb, there's just so many guests that are price shopping, and they know these tricks. They know that, and all this information is out there, that Airbnb is probably leaning towards the sides of guests now for past few years, it seems like, and maybe even growing. So I'm curious as to what your thoughts are for any, obviously we want to get them more into the direct booking strategy. But the thing I hear from a lot of people is, well, like, Airbnb just brings me so many people in, and it's so easy to just rely on that. And I don't even know anything about marketing, and how can I get direct bookings and all this? So what would be your answer to somebody that says that, especially with all the things coming to light in the past week?
I've been talking about this for 10 years, and that's the most common comeback. It's just like, well, Airbnb is, it provides me everything. I don't have to worry about a thing. And no, Airbnb is great until it isn't. It's like being in a relationship that is absolutely amazing until it isn't, and it happens. And, the same people who come to me and go, you know what, Mark, I know I need to do direct bookings, but I'm just going to, I've got a busy summer coming up. I'll do it in the autumn. And then it gets to the autumn. They go, oh, you know what? Holidays are coming up. I'll do it in January. January comes. It's like, I've got no money. It's not a case of like when, like I say, it's not a case of when are you going to do it? You need to do it now. And there's some simple little things that you can do where you don't need to have a marketing brain, like getting a PMS. It's so easy to do. There's like even free PMSs that are out there now. You don't have to spend any money, like very cost effective ones that you can get out and do it. Like Hospitable is so cost effective, and there's so many that are out there. And if you can just have that and just connect up your Airbnb, you can go multi-platform, you can go on your Verbos, your booking.coms, you get a direct site, you can connect up your Stripe. That's just a start, and then you can go from there. That tip that I spoke about, where I said I close out to the OTAs, it's literally in this book that I put out, the Book Direct Playbook. I did that, and there's 101 tips in there. Doesn't matter what skill level you are, you can go grab that. There's 101 plays, and you're not going to go from 0% direct bookings to 65 or 80% direct bookings overnight. All it is just showing up every day and just getting 1% better. It's just like going to the gym. The first day you're going into the gym because you want to get that six pack, you want to get ripped. You're not going to walk out with like a six pack and big muscles. You've got to do it consistently over time, showing up every day. And, I'm not going to stand here and say the Gary Vee or the Hormozy where you got to do 16 hours a day, work until you bleed, eat glass. No, it just takes an hour and a half every day of just new business and just getting better at it. And, if you do that consistently over time, we'll be here in a year's time and you will be on track. And Airbnb are not going to ever release new policies that are going to favor the host anymore. They've shown that, and doesn't matter what happens in September, October, or 2026 or 2027, you've got to be prepared for it. And the Boostly members, the people that I work with and I coach, like the last couple of days, they're the ones that have just gone, meh, oh, that's okay. Airbnb are doing that. So many of them have just been like that. where I'm in other Facebook groups and I'm seeing the panic, or people are just like digging their head in the sand. And, if you just take that time to just spend a little bit of time, and everybody says to me, I haven't got the time. I always say, show me your phone, show me your screen time, right? I will go find those doom scrolling on TikTok where you can put it to like reading a book or doing a bit of things, and you can get it done. You don't have to spend loads on Meta ads, you don't have to spend loads on Google ads. A lot of the things you can do at free. So there's lots of advice out there. If you just want to jump over to the Boostly podcast, there's tons on there as well. Like there's 800 episodes for free. So go ahead and give it a go.
I think people just, when they hear the direct booking thing, they get so intimidated because they're thinking if they start that process, like they're not going to get any more Airbnb bookings and all that come in, and they're just got to rely on themselves. But I can't remember if it was me and you that we chatted about this last time or not, or if it was just offline, maybe we were chatting. But usually, before there was this stigma or whatever that if you're connected to other platforms, Airbnb might penalize you. But then Airbnb kind of realized that that's actually backwards, because the best properties and the best hosts are probably going to be on multiple channels. The ones that are only on Airbnb, that, they may get a little push in the algorithm because they get more bookings maybe through that. But for the most part, I'm sure, and you probably could agree with this, that Airbnb recognizes that usually the best hosts are going to be on a few others. And so those are probably the more professional hosts, the ones that they want to be hosted. But my follow-up question that I wanted to ask is, and you touched on it a little bit of your thoughts, but maybe you could dive deeper, is why do you think Airbnb is putting hosts to the side? What is your thoughts on that? I can't wrap my head around, besides financial implications, but I'm just confused as to why they think the people really carrying the platform are the ones that get the short end of the stick.
So I'll answer the second question first and come back to the other one. So what Airbnb have done, I think what they've realized is that 80% of the Airbnb inventory is owned by people that have just got one property. And 50% of that have got their entire inventory only on Airbnb. So when I said that they've drawn a line in the sand, yes, they've drawn a line in the sand, are going sort of, you've got your guests and your shareholders on this side, but I feel also as well, they're putting hobbyist hosts on that side as well. So there's hobbyist hosts, there's professional hosts, and there's professional operators. So hobbyist hosts are that person who's got the one property. It's not their main source of income. It's like maybe a second or third priority on their list. If it's booked, okay. If not, well. And they've got it on Airbnb and that's it. Then you've got your professional hosts, which is like yourself, who's got like a couple of properties. This is something you care truly about, is like a good revenue generator. You care a lot about it. And then you've got your professional operators. That's the ones that have got over 100 properties. Those are the ones that you see going to like Verma and, the big organizations, right? Those are like the Casagos and whatnot. I feel like what they are doing is they are making a play for the hobbyist hosts. You can see the sort of the writing on the wall with that, because what's coming next is going to be the host marketplace. It's been rumored. It's pretty much like the worst kept secret in the industry. This host marketplace is coming to the Airbnb extranet, and that will be aimed at hobbyist hosts. If you've got things like property management software tools and stuff, I feel like they're just going to like, you know what, you do you, but we're going to focus on these.
What's the host marketplace? Explain that, or like what your thoughts are on that.
So the host marketplace will basically be where you can find yourself. Well, they started at the moment with the co-host things, where you can find a co-host. So they're just going to go the next level up, where it'll be, so now you can find, this is just my interpretation of what I think will be on there. It'll be like find a cleaner, find a handyman. It'll be everything that what you can do at the moment, but without looking for it on Airbnb. And obviously Airbnb will take their cut of it. They will have their piece of the pie around it. And so that's what's going to be coming. It'll be things like that. They are aiming for the people that, like I say, I do a lot of marketing Airbnb roasts, where I look at listings and I look at how they can do their marketing better and whatnot. And I've been doing a lot of it over the last month. And it's amazing the amount of people that I see that don't even have an Instagram account, barely have a website. You can't find them on Google. And those are the ones when they come back to me and go, yeah, I'm just a hobbyist host. I don't care. You know what I mean? And I think that's what Airbnb are going after. And I've totally forgotten the first question that you asked me.
So we kind of went into like Airbnb. People are worried that, I want to be on Airbnb only because they're going to penalize me for being on other platforms or having a direct booking site. And, Airbnb only wants you on Airbnb. Like, what's your response to that when people say it?
I try and figure out what Airbnb are thinking a lot of times, and I always get stumped on what I think that they're thinking, because whatever I think think they're thinking that they do something opposite. But Airbnb do not penalize you for being on other websites. That is false. What they do, they've got 4 criteria that they look at. One is price, obviously. One is availability. So availability and price are probably 2 of the key things. And obviously they look at reviews, and there's that hidden review. So, when you leave a review on a host on your stay, and then they say, right, you're 5-star, and then they'll ask you those extra questions. Those are like the extra reviews that they look for. But the first 2 is price and availability. Availability is a big thing. So if your Airbnb is available from now until the rest of 2025, obviously they're going to go, oh, great, we're going to show you up. And if the price is matching, and if, there's now a lot of AI variables that fit into it as well. So again, I'm sure that Airbnb are moving towards being the Tinder OTA, the basically the dating site OTA, because as guests, now with icons in particular, they got you to ask all these questions. If you go into your extranet and if you go into your profile, they ask you, what's your favorite 90s movie? What's your favorite suite? And you're like, why am I getting asked all these things? Because they're basically trying to get all the data so they can match up your needs, your wants, your likes to properties and amenities. And so price and availability cast for a massive part of it. Now, if you're a host, and if you are a smart host, and if you are obviously on booking.com, you've got your direct stuff, you've got verbobooking.com, there's things like Wimstay and all these other OTAs. If you're booked, you're booked. You're not going to have availability, all right? So if you're looking at it from that standpoint, yeah, Airbnb aren't going to show you because you've not got any bookings available. But I feel like the myth and the conspiracy theory of I will get punished if I'm on multiple sites, and if I've got a direct booking site is false. And, if you just look at it from what Airbnb are wanting to do, like Brian Chesky has said that for 9 nights that are booked in a hotel, 1 is booked on an Airbnb. If they can just get that 9 to be in an 8, Airbnb's business model doubles. So it's all they're having to do is chip into this to this hotel world. And the hotel world and the OTA world, which is probably where I've come from, is so reliant on being multi-platform. If you go onto a channel manager, they will look to put you everywhere. And obviously Airbnb have purchased Hotel Tonight. They are going all in on hotels. There's a massive, massive push for this. And I feel like if they are going to, what the conspiracy theory says of punish you if you're on multiple platforms, I just don't see it.
I can agree with that fully, because my properties are constantly booked on direct bookings, like all the time, and we still rank very, very high on Airbnb anytime you go on there. But it goes back to, it's just the availability and when you can show up and search. So we'll see how that kind of, translates over time with all the changes they're making. But I was going to say, I think that they're still going to keep pushing the more professional hosts or the people that are above hobby hosts. But with all these new changes, I don't know if I'm as confident in that anymore, because who knows what path they're going down. It's been an interesting week to say the least in the space. So
it's been a bananas week, but like speaking from a purely selfish point of view, our calendar for signing up to Boostly has never been this full. Like we are booked out for the next 2 weeks. It is bananas, and this always happens when Airbnb do Airbnb things. And normally you get one thing every quarter or one thing like every 6 months. This has been 3 things in the space of a couple of weeks with services and this. And yeah, I mean, for us, it's amazing to see people book a call and like to speak to our team, and we speak to them afterwards. And it's just like, we had somebody say to us last week, Alison Kraft actually was on this podcast. She said, I feel like I've leveled up, which is really cool to hear. Like once like they come on and over to like to the good side and to the direct booking side. And it's amazing to see. And like I say, it's who knows what Airbnb are going to do next. I would like to be that the next time that we come on a podcast, we're talking about marketing tactics, but who knows? It's probably about something else that Airbnb have done.
Yeah, I hope not either, but we'll see, because I'm sure we'll schedule them out in a few weeks. And if y'all see another episode with me and Mark talking about Airbnb, then you know that something big probably came up again too. So you have any last things you want to let the audience know, or anything else that you may see going forward? I'm sure your line and your bookings on your own calendar are going to be filling up even more as these changes keep happening.
Yeah, I think the main thing is to take away from this is we're not talking about ditching Airbnb, right? But you can't rely on them. So everything that we talk about today isn't about like burning the bridges, deleting your account. You've got to use them. You've got to take advantage of the massive marketing that they do, but you've got to stop relying on them. I think that's the main takeaway that I want for everybody listening in.
I can reiterate that takeaway as somebody that has definitely thrived in the direct booking space, and you as yourself too. So again, Mark Simpson, super happy to have you on. Always a wealth of knowledge, and I love your insight. You're one of the the few people that I think like when news comes out, like you actually look into what is going on and look at it from an all eyes perspective. So I love that about you. And yeah, again, a pleasure as always to talk. We'll leave all your information in the description. Please comment below. Let us know, what are your concerns with the new Airbnb terms? Is there anything we didn't answer that you're a little curious about? I know we didn't go into the buy now, pay later, but I think it kind of falls into the chargeback section still, because it's kind of a similar thing. Like if somebody books your place through buy now, pay later, and they end up canceling the plan later on, Airbnb still will take that money away from you most likely, and there's not much repercussion you're going to be able to have there is what I'm seeing. Is there anything I missed on that last part?
No, you're right. I feel like we got to see that play out in real life terms. Obviously, they're making a play because of like the economic situation and where people's money's at the moment. They are sort of going down this route, and Vrbo have done it. Hotels do it a lot. Again, going down the hotel play, and it's them trying to do that. How it plays out is a case of sucking it and seeing. But for the most part, now that's the one that's, again, it's like giving my eye, but it's the chargeback one that's like, that's the one that's really got my attention on this one.
Yeah, me too. So I will definitely be advocating for direct bookings even more and sending them your way too. So always a pleasure chatting with you, Mark. And if you've made it this far, please subscribe, and we'll see y'all in the next episode. Take care.